Welcome to the Vyhmeister living room. This is Abby, Jackson, Cyrus, Lily, and we have an older one at school, and we have another one on the way in a few months. We're going to tell a story today. I'm going to start off with a verse from the Bible. Oh, that men would give thanks to the Lord for his goodness and for his wonderful works to the children of men. Psalm 107:31. On a hot August night in 1942, the U.S. and Japanese were engaged in the deadly naval battle of Savo Island for possession of Guadalcanal. This was codenamed Operation Watchtower near the Solomon Islands. And a young man named Elgin Staples was a signalman, the third class on the USS Astoria. He was awakened one night from an exhausted sleep by a loud explosion. Jumping to his feet with his heart pounding, he grabbed his life belt and strapped it on. Young Staples survived the first hail of enemy shells and was tending to the wounded when a gun turret blew him overboard, and he plummeted 30 feet through the night into the dark, shark-infested waters below. Wounded in his leg and in his shoulder by shrapnel, he was kept afloat by his narrow lifebelt that he managed to activate. For 4 agonizing hours, he drifted in the open sea as large, dark creatures brushed against his leg. The sharks were surrounding him. And he found out that many of his soldiers that night were killed and eaten by sharks. During those terrifying hours that passed, he thought often of his mother, who he knew was at home praying for him. At sunrise, young Staples was rescued by a passing destroyer, and he was promptly returned to his floundering ship, the USS Astoria. The captain of the Astoria had hoped to beach the ship on the shoreline before it sank, but he did not make it. The ship was going to sink into the rough waters of the Pacific Ocean. Young Staples was still clinging to his lifebelt, and now he had to jump overboard again. He was still wounded, and he's exhausted from his near-death experience in the deadly Pacific from the night before, and now he has to jump overboard again. Forced to leap back into the ocean, he was soon picked up again by the USS President Jackson and eventually evacuated to safety. On board the transport ship, Staples closely examined his life belt that had saved his life not once, but twice. It was manufactured by the Firestone Rubber Company, and he felt impressed to hang on to that life belt as a souvenir. Wouldn't you? Yeah, huh? I wouldn't let it go. Young Staples was given a 30-day leave to go back home to the United States to recover from his injuries. While home, he was telling the story to his mother, who had taken a job during the war at the Firestone Rubber Company in Akron, Ohio. One evening, feeling a little curious, young Eldon Staples grabbed his life belt from his duffel bag and set it on the table in front of his mother, and he told her the whole story, how the belt had saved him not once, but twice. He asked his mother, "What's the purpose of the number stamped on this belt?" She replied, "The company makes many thousands and thousands of belts for all the sailors, and that number is the number of the personal individual who would make and inspect that belt." She looked at it, and she examined the numbers, and with her voice barely above a whisper, and her eyes wide, and her voice choking with a little tear, she said, "Son, I am an inspector at the Firestone plant, and this is my number. I inspected this belt." More than that, she went on to explain that every belt she inspected, she prayed for the life belt and the sailor who would use it. She prayed for every life belt because she said, one of these belts might save my son one day. Parents, our prayers for our children are their life belt. Never stop praying for your children, no matter how old they get. It might save your child someday. The Lord promises, I will contend with him that contendeth with thee, and I will save thy children. Isaiah 49:25. And children, remember that your parents are your life belt. Mommy and daddy are your life belt. So listen and obey, and it will save your life someday.